TravelJoy groups give you a powerful set of features to handle several trips going to the same destination. First, it's important to understand the difference between a trip and a group. Simply put, a trip consists of one or more people traveling together, generally staying in the same room, and generally with one primary traveler handling most of the communication. A group, on the other hand, is a collection of trips. For example, if you have 8 people staying in 4 cabins on the same cruise, this would typically be a group consisting of 4 trips, one for each cabin. One key advantage of using the group feature is that you can easily communicate via each individual trip and also easily communicate with all of the travelers at once using group messages, group forms, and group invoices. To get started, let's create a group by clicking the pink Create button, then clicking Group. Next, enter the name and travel dates for your group, as well as the destination, and choose a group photo. This will be the default trip photo for all new trips created in the group. Finally, click Create Group. Now you're on the group page, sometimes referred to as the All Travelers page, since you can click the All Travelers tab to get back to this page from elsewhere in the group. This is where group actions take place, but first, let's take a look at the various ways you can add individual trips to this group. First, if you already have details for one of the travelers, you can click the plus sign to bring up the familiar Add Trip interface. This is just like creating any other trip, except this trip will automatically be placed into this group. Next, if you already have a trip on your dashboard which should be a part of this group, you can move it by opening the trip from your dashboard, clicking the 3 dots to the left of the blue Create button, and choosing Edit Trip. From here, you can choose your group name from the drop-down list and click Save. This trip is now part of the group. You can also allow clients to add themselves to the group via group registration forms, which we'll describe in a moment, and group booking pages, which have their own video tutorial later in this series. Now that we've added some trips to this group, we can access each trip using the searchable drop-down menu. Each trip page functions exactly like an individual trip page, so you can send individual messages, forms, invoices, and so on. Back on the All Travelers page, we see a familiar blue Create button, but the options here are different than what you'll see on a trip page. Here, you can create a group invoice, a group form, or a group booking page. Let's start by clicking Group Invoice. A group invoice is a template that can be copied to as many trips as you'd like. For example, if everyone will be staying in the same room type, you can create a group invoice with the room price and description, commission details, and payment schedule. This should all look very familiar, as it looks just like a regular invoice. One exception is that you are required to name this invoice, so choose something that clearly describes the invoice contents. The enhancement comes when you're ready to send. You can choose Send All, add check marks for each primary traveler who should receive a copy, and uncheck people who should not receive a copy, and then click Send. Momentarily, every client who you selected will receive their own unique copy of that invoice via email. Once you've sent the group invoice for the first time, you can send it to additional travelers by visiting the Group Files tab, clicking the 3 dots at the top right corner of the invoice, then choosing the appropriate option. You can create as many group invoices as you'd like. So if you have a group of 60 trips split among 3 different room types, you can create 3 different group invoices, choosing to send a copy of each one to the appropriate list of clients staying in a particular room type. Next, let's choose a group form. Much like group invoice, this allows you to send every primary traveler a copy of a particular form in one mass mailing to save you time. Choose the form you'd like to send everyone from the drop-down list, then follow the steps to send the form to everyone who should receive it. You'll also see one other option here to publish a group form. This is known as a group registration form, and it works a little bit differently. It isn't designed to be sent to existing travelers, but instead it provides you a link to the form that you've chosen, which you can then provide to a group leader or post on your website or social media. Anyone who visits that link and submits the form will have a trip automatically generated for them within the group, and their responses will be included on the trip page. Since group booking pages are covered in another tutorial in this series, we'll skip that option for now. There's one more option for contacting all of your primary travelers at once, and that is the group message feature. To start a group message, make sure you're on the Group Messages tab and click the box that says Announce something to the entire group here. Type your message, add attachments if you'd like, and choose which traveler should receive a copy of the message. Their responses will automatically be routed to their individual trips, and you'll receive a notification for each reply. Now, let's take a look at the 5 group tabs. We already know the Group Messages tab allows you to send an announcement, and we saw the Group Files tab earlier. This is where you can send a copy of a group invoice or group form to additional travelers and store other files related to the group. Group Tasks and Group Notes both work similarly to Trip Tasks and Trip Notes, but Group Status is something new. So let's take a look at what you can find on the Group Status tab. When you click Group Status, the first thing you'll see is a list of all invoices which have been created for this trip. For each invoice, you'll see some details such as the traveler name, invoice number, status, and balance due. You can click any invoice number to go directly to that invoice, and you can click the buttons near the top of this to export this report at any time. You can also sort by any column, making this the ideal place to track payments for large groups. You can also track the status and details of any group forms that you've sent by clicking View Forms, then choosing a form. Only forms that you've sent to the group will appear in this list. On this report, you can see whether each traveler has received a copy of that specific form, as well as whether they have submitted their response. If they have responded, you can also see all of their answers by scrolling right horizontally, and again, you can sort and export this report. This can be a very valuable tool when you need a list of all travelers in a group. Finally, when a group has completed their trip, you can archive the entire group at once by clicking the 3 dots to the left of the blue Create button and choosing Archive along with the archive reason.